The Solution Blueprint: How to Rewire Your Mind for Unstoppable Success. Part 1 of 4. Listen, I need you to pause whatever you're doing right now and really hear this, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why everything you've been taught about handling challenges is actually keeping you stuck. And here's the kicker. You've been doing it so automatically, so unconsciously, that you didn't even realize it was happening. Your mind, right this second, is running a program, a mental software that scans your world looking for one thing: what's broken, what needs fixing, what could go wrong. And while you think this is helping you stay prepared, stay sharp, stay ahead of problems, it's actually the invisible cage preventing you from the breakthrough you've been chasing. I'm talking about the difference between people who spend their entire lives fighting fires and those rare individuals who seem to move through obstacles like water flowing around rocks. The difference isn't talent. It's not luck. It's not even intelligence. It's something far simpler and far more powerful. They've learned to think about solutions instead of drowning in problems. And before you roll your eyes thinking this is another just think positive speech, let me stop you right there. This isn't about pretending problems don't exist. This isn't about toxic positivity or ignoring reality. This is about completely rewiring how your brain processes challenges so that you automatically see pathways forward instead of walls blocking you. By the time we're done here, you're going to understand exactly why your current approach keeps you spinning in circles. More importantly, you're going to walk away with a precise, tested framework that transforms obstacles into stepping stones. The same framework that separates the top performers in any field from everyone else stuck in mediocrity. So here's my promise to you. If you stick with me through this journey, you'll never look at a challenge the same way again. Ready? Let's dive in. Chapter 1. The Mental Trap. That's sabotaging your potential. Let me share something uncomfortable with you. Your brain is actively working against your success, not because there's something wrong with you, but because it's running on ancient operating software that's catastrophically mismatched for the modern world. Think about your ancestors thousands of years ago. Their survival depended on one critical skill: spotting danger before it spotted them. The human who heard a twig snap in the forest and assumed predator lived longer than the one who assumed just the wind. Your great-great-great-grandparents who survived to pass on their genes? They were paranoid. They were hyper-vigilant. They were experts at finding problems, and you inherited that same neural wiring. Your brain is essentially a sophisticated threat detection machine, constantly scanning your environment for what could hurt you, what might go wrong, what needs to be feared. In a world of saber-toothed cats and hostile tribes, this programming kept humans alive. But in today's world of career challenges, relationship issues, and business decisions, this same mechanism is absolutely destroying your potential. Here's what happens every single time you face a challenge. Your brain immediately kicks into high alert mode. It starts cataloging every possible danger, every potential obstacle, every reason why this situation is threatening. Your mental energy gets consumed by worst-case scenarios, anxious projections, and an endless spiral of identifying more and more aspects of the problem. Meanwhile, The actual solution sits right there, invisible to your problem-saturated mind. Think about the last major obstacle you encountered. Be honest with yourself. How much time did you spend analyzing what was wrong versus generating what could work? If you're like most people, you probably spent hours, maybe even days, dissecting the problem. You talked about it with friends. You worried about it late at night. You became an absolute expert on every angle of what wasn't working. But how much time did you actually invest in creating, testing, and implementing solutions? Probably a fraction, maybe none at all. This is what I call the problem trap, and it's everywhere. In companies, entire teams spend meetings discussing what's failing instead of brainstorming fixes. Individuals spend years complaining about their situations instead of changing them. Students focus on how difficult a course is instead of developing study strategies. People in relationships fixate on what their partner does wrong instead of co-creating better communication. And here's the truly insidious part. It feels productive. When you're analyzing a problem, when you're discussing what's broken, when you're identifying obstacles, your brain gets a hit of dopamine. It feels like important work. You feel busy, engaged, like you're making progress. But you're not. You're just becoming a world-class expert at seeing problems, which only makes you better at finding more of them. This creates a vicious cycle that destroys potential. The more you focus on what's wrong, the better your brain becomes at spotting problems. The better you get at spotting problems, the more overwhelmed you feel. The more overwhelmed you feel, the less action you take. The less action you take, the more problems pile up. And the cycle continues, trapping you in a reactive, victim-like mindset that guarantees you'll never reach your potential. Meanwhile, there's a small percentage of people who've completely broken free from this trap. They've trained their minds to operate on a fundamentally different system. When they encounter a challenge, their first instinct isn't, "What's wrong here?" It's, "What's the solution? How do we fix this? What's the fastest path forward?" This isn't just a different way of thinking. It's a different way of living. And here's what's happening at the neurological level that changes everything. Every time you focus on a problem, you're strengthening specific neural pathways associated with threat detection and danger identification. You're literally rewiring your brain to become better at seeing what's wrong. But every time you redirect your attention to solutions, you're strengthening completely different neural pathways associated with creativity, resourcefulness, and forward momentum. You're training your brain to become a solution-generating engine. The difference in results? Absolutely staggering. Problem-focused people spend their lives in constant reaction mode, always putting out fires, forever feeling behind. Solution-focused people spend their lives building, creating, moving forward with clarity and purpose. They face the same challenges as everyone else, but they process them completely differently, which leads to completely different outcomes. This isn't about natural talent or being born lucky. It's about which neural pathways you've been strengthening through repeated use. And here's the beautiful part. Regardless of how long you've been stuck in problem-focused thinking, you can start rewiring your brain today. Neuroplasticity is the scientific term for your brain's ability to change and reorganize itself. Your brain is constantly being shaped by what you focus on. Focus on problems, and you become a problem-focused person. Focus on solutions, and you transform into a solution-focused person. The choice is yours. But I want you to understand something critical. The stakes couldn't be higher. This choice determines whether you spend your life as someone who has problems or someone who solves them. Chapter 2. Why your brain defaults to problems and how it's holding you back. To truly shift into solution-focused thinking, you need to understand exactly why your brain gravitates toward problems in the first place. This isn't a personal flaw. This isn't a character defect. This is hardwired biology that served humanity for millennia, but now works against your success in subtle, powerful ways. Once you understand the mechanism, you can start overriding it. Psychologists call it the negativity bias. Your brain gives dramatically more weight to negative information than positive information. Research shows it takes roughly 5 positive experiences to counterbalance the psychological impact of a single negative one. Your brain is literally designed to pay more attention to threats than opportunities, to danger than safety, to what's broken than what's working. From an evolutionary standpoint, this made perfect sense. The human who noticed the rustling bush and assumed danger survived longer than the optimist who assumed it was harmless. Your ancestors who made it through thousands of years of genuine threats were the ones with highly sensitive threat detection systems. But here's where it gets problematic. Your brain can't distinguish between a genuine, life-threatening danger and a difficult email from your boss. It can't tell the difference between a predator in the bushes and a looming project deadline. Your threat detection system treats every challenge as if it's a matter of survival, flooding your body with stress hormones and triggering the same fight-or-flight response that helped your ancestors escape actual predators. This creates what researchers call the problem-focused loop. When your brain perceives any threat or challenge, it immediately shifts into hypervigilant mode, scanning for every possible danger, every potential obstacle, every way things could go sideways. This was useful when threats were external and immediate, like an animal that needed to be avoided or escaped. But when the threat is internal or complex, like a career setback, a relationship conflict, or a business challenge, this same mechanism becomes counterproductive. Instead of helping you escape danger, it traps you in endless loops of worry, analysis, and problem identification. Your brain becomes so consumed with cataloging everything that's wrong that it has zero mental resources left for creativity, innovation, or solution generation. You become an expert on the problem, but remain completely clueless about the solution. This gets compounded by something called confirmation bias. Once your brain decides something is a problem, it actively seeks evidence to confirm that belief. It filters reality to show you more proof of the problem while filtering out potential solutions or positive aspects. If you believe your job is terrible, your brain notices every negative aspect while ignoring the positive ones. If you believe a relationship is failing, your brain focuses on every conflict while overlooking moments of genuine connection. The result? Problems appear to grow larger and more complex over time, while solutions seem to become more distant and unrealistic. This isn't because problems are actually getting worse, it's because your brain is programming itself to see more problems and fewer solutions. Modern society amplifies this effect dramatically. We're constantly bombarded with problem-focused information. News media profits from highlighting what's wrong with the world. Social media algorithms promote content that triggers emotional reactions, usually anger, fear, or outrage. Even well-meaning conversations with friends often devolve into problem-focused sessions where everyone takes turns sharing what's going wrong. You're swimming in an ocean of problem-focused information, and your brain is absorbing all of it, becoming more skilled at identifying what's wrong while losing its capacity to generate solutions. But here's what the top performers understand that most people don't. This is all just programming, and programming can be changed. Your brain's default mode isn't permanent. With conscious effort and the right techniques, you can override your biological programming and train your brain to default to solution-focused thinking instead. The key insight is this: your brain is like a muscle. Whatever you exercise gets stronger. If you exercise problem identification, you become phenomenal at spotting problems. If you exercise solution generation, you become phenomenal at creating solutions. The neural pathways you use most frequently become your brain's automatic mode of operation. This means every time you catch yourself focusing on a problem and consciously redirect toward potential solutions, you're doing more than solving that specific challenge. You're literally rewiring your brain to become more solution-focused in general. You're building mental muscle that will serve you in every area of your life, forever. The people who achieve extraordinary results haven't eliminated challenges from their lives. They've simply trained their brains to process challenges differently. Instead of getting stuck in problem analysis, they immediately shift to solution generation. Instead of becoming experts on what's wrong, they become experts on what's possible. This single shift changes absolutely everything. Chapter 3. The solution-focused mindset that changes the game. Now that you understand why your brain defaults to problems, let's talk about what separates high achievers from everyone else. The solution-focused mindset. This isn't just a different approach to thinking about challenges. It's a completely different operating system that fundamentally changes how you process information, make decisions, and take action. The solution-focused mindset begins with an assumption that most people instinctively reject. Every problem contains the seeds of its own solution. This doesn't mean every problem is easy to solve or that solutions are always obvious. It means that within every challenge lies information, resources, or opportunities that can be leveraged to create a pathway forward. Problem-focused people see obstacles. Solution-focused people see data. When a solution-focused person encounters a challenge, their brain immediately starts asking different questions. Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of, "This is impossible," they ask, "What would need to be true for this to become possible?" Instead of, "What's wrong with this situation?" they ask, "What resources do I have that I haven't fully considered yet?" This shift in questioning completely transforms the information your brain has access to. Your brain functions like a search engine. The questions you ask determine the results you receive. Ask problem-focused questions, and your brain searches for and delivers problem-focused answers. Ask solution-focused questions, and your brain searches for and delivers solution-focused answers. But solution-focused thinking goes deeper than just asking different questions. It involves a fundamental shift in how you view your relationship to challenges. Problem-focused people see themselves as victims of circumstances, reacting to things that happen to them. Solution-focused people see themselves as architects of change, actively shaping their circumstances through intentional responses. This creates what psychologists call an internal locus of control. Instead of believing your success or failure is determined by external factors beyond your influence, you operate from the focusing your energy on the variables you can influence rather than the variables you can't. Solution-focused people also operate with what researchers call a growth mindset. They view challenges not as threats to avoid, but as opportunities to develop new capabilities. When they encounter something they don't know how to do, their first thought isn't, "I can't do this." Their first thought is, "I can't do this yet." That simple word, yet, transforms a fixed limitation into a temporary condition that can be changed through effort and learning. This mindset shift has profound implications for how you approach goals and obstacles. Problem-focused people tend to abandon goals when they hit significant challenges because they interpret obstacles as evidence the goal is unrealistic or that they lack necessary capabilities. Solution-focused people interpret obstacles as information about what they need to learn, develop, or acquire to achieve their goals. The most successful people in any field share this characteristic. They don't see obstacles as reasons to quit. They see obstacles as curriculum. Every challenge becomes a lesson. Every setback becomes data for course correction. Every failure becomes feedback for improvement. This allows them to persist through difficulties that would stop most people in their tracks. But perhaps the most important aspect of solution-focused thinking is what researchers call solution efficacy, the belief that solutions exist and that you have the capability to find them. This isn't blind optimism or wishful thinking. It's a practical assumption based on evidence. Throughout human history, people have consistently found ways to solve problems that initially seemed impossible. Every technology you use, every convenience you enjoy, every system that makes your life easier exists because someone refused to accept that a problem was unsolvable. The airplane exists because the Wright brothers didn't accept that human flight was impossible. The internet exists because computer scientists didn't accept that global communication was too complex. Every single breakthrough in human history started with someone who maintained solution efficacy in the face of apparent impossibility. Solution-focused people understand that the vast majority of limitations are temporary and contextual, not permanent and absolute. They know that impossible usually just means we haven't figured out how yet. They approach challenges with curiosity rather than resignation, with resourcefulness rather than helplessness. This creates a completely different emotional relationship to challenges. Problem-focused people experience anxiety, frustration, and stress when they encounter obstacles because they interpret obstacles as threats. Solution-focused people experience excitement, curiosity, and motivation when they encounter obstacles because they interpret obstacles as puzzles to solve. The emotional difference is crucial because your emotional state directly affects your cognitive capabilities. When you're stressed and anxious, your brain's executive functions are impaired. You have less access to creativity, innovation, and complex problem solving. When you're excited and curious, your brain operates at peak performance. You have full access to your creative and analytical capabilities. This means solution-focused people don't just think differently about problems, they literally have access to better mental resources for solving them. Their mindset creates a positive feedback loop where challenges enhance rather than diminish their problem-solving capabilities. And this is where transformation truly begins. Chapter 4. The 5-step framework that solves any challenge. Understanding the mindset is just the foundation. To actually transform how you approach challenges, you need a systematic framework you can apply to any situation every single time. The most successful people don't just happen to think about solutions. They have specific, repeatable processes that automatically direct their attention towards solutions and away from problems. This framework consists of 5 sequential steps that take you from problem identification to solution implementation. Each step is designed to counteract your brain's natural tendency to get stuck in problem analysis and instead redirect your mental energy toward productive action. Let me walk you through each step like we're sitting across from each other over coffee, because this framework is going to become your new best friend. Step 1. Acknowledge without drowning. This is a crucial distinction most people completely miss. You can't solve a problem you don't acknowledge, but you also can't solve a problem you're drowning in. The key is identifying and defining the challenge clearly and concisely, then immediately shifting your focus to solution generation. Problem acknowledgement means stating the challenge in specific factual terms without adding emotional commentary or catastrophic interpretations. Instead of, "This is a complete disaster and everything's falling apart," you say, "Our revenue decreased 15% this quarter." Instead of, "I'm absolutely terrible at presentations and I'll never improve," you say, "I experienced nervousness when speaking to large groups." The goal is getting crystal clear on what actually needs to be solved without triggering your brain's threat detection system into full panic mode. Think of it like this. Imagine you're a doctor examining a patient. You need to identify the symptoms accurately. But if you spend all your time describing how terrible the symptoms are, you never get to treatment. Acknowledge the fever, then move immediately to what will bring it down. Step 2. Resource inventory. Before your brain can generate effective solutions, it needs to know what resources are available. Most people skip this step entirely and jump straight to solution brainstorming, which severely limits their options to only the most obvious approaches. Resource inventory forces you to take stock of everything you have available to address the challenge. Resources include obvious things like money, time, and skills. But they also include less obvious assets like relationships, knowledge from past experiences, tools you already own, networks you can tap into, and even lessons from previous failures. The key is brainstorming exhaustively without immediately judging whether each resource is sufficient or relevant. Your goal is creating a comprehensive list of everything you have to work with. This step is absolutely crucial because it shifts your brain from scarcity thinking to abundance thinking. When you focus only on what you lack, your brain operates from a sense of limitation and impossibility. When you focus on what you have, your brain starts seeing possibilities and connections it previously missed. I've seen this transform situations that seemed hopeless. Someone feels stuck in their career because they don't have the right degree. But when they inventory their resources, they discover they have 10 years of practical experience, 3 professional relationships with industry leaders, a portfolio of successful projects, and a reputation for reliability. Suddenly, the path forward becomes visible. Step 3. Solution generation through systematic brainstorming. This is where most people's approach completely breaks down. They either generate 1 or 2 obvious solutions and stop there, or they get overwhelmed trying to find the perfect solution immediately. Effective solution generation requires both quantity and systematic thinking. The goal in this phase is generating as many potential solutions as possible without immediately evaluating their feasibility. Your brain has 2 different modes, creative mode and analytical mode. They can't operate simultaneously. So you need to separate solution generation from solution evaluation. During this phase, no idea is too crazy, too expensive, or too difficult. Your only job is generating options. Use specific prompting questions to stimulate creative thinking. If money were no object, how would I solve this? If I had unlimited time, what would I do? If I could get help from anyone in the world, who would I ask? And what would I ask them to do? What would someone with a completely different background do in this situation? How have other people solved similar challenges? The key is pushing past your first few obvious ideas and forcing your brain to get creative. The best solutions are rarely the first ones you think of. They emerge when you push beyond conventional thinking and start exploring unconventional approaches. I like to set a timer for 10 minutes and force myself to generate at least 15 potential solutions, even if some of them seem ridiculous. Because sometimes the ridiculous idea contains a kernel of brilliance that becomes the actual solution. Step 4. Solution evaluation and selection. Now you switch from creative mode to analytical mode. You take all the solutions you generated and evaluate them based on specific criteria: feasibility, cost, time requirement, likelihood of success, and potential for additional benefits beyond solving the immediate problem. Create a simple scoring system where you rate each solution on a scale from 1 to 5 for each criterion, then add up the scores. This prevents you from being swayed by solutions that sound exciting but aren't practical, or from dismissing solutions that seem boring but are highly effective. The goal isn't necessarily finding the perfect solution, it's finding the best solution given your current resources and constraints. Remember, you can always implement one solution now and add additional solutions later if needed. Progress beats perfection every single time. Step 5. Implementation with progress tracking. This is where solution-focused thinking diverges most dramatically from problem-focused thinking. Problem-focused people often stop once they've identified a potential solution, treating the identification itself as the accomplishment. Solution-focused people understand that solutions only create results when they're implemented consistently and adjusted based on feedback. Create a specific implementation plan with clear action steps, deadlines, and success metrics. Build in regular check-in points where you evaluate progress and make adjustments as needed. Most solutions require iteration and refinement, so treat your initial implementation as an experiment rather than a final answer. Track both outcome metrics and process metrics. Outcome metrics tell you whether the solution is working. Process metrics tell you whether you're implementing the solution consistently. Both types of feedback are crucial for continuous improvement. This framework transforms problem-solving from a chaotic emotional process into a systematic strategic process. Instead of getting overwhelmed by challenges, you have a clear pathway from problem identification to solution implementation. Instead of spinning your wheels in analysis paralysis, you have a structured approach that maintains forward momentum. Chapter 5. Advanced Strategies for Complex Challenges. While the basic framework handles most everyday challenges, complex problems require advanced strategies. These are the techniques that separate good problem solvers from extraordinary ones. They're the methods that allow you to tackle challenges that seem impossible and find solutions that others miss entirely. Let me share the most powerful advanced strategies I've learned from studying top performers across different fields. Strategy 1. Systems thinking. Most people approach problems as isolated incidents, but complex challenges are usually symptoms of larger systemic issues. Solution-focused people learn to zoom out and examine the broader system to find leverage points where small changes can create large improvements. Systems thinking starts with mapping the relationships between different elements of a problem. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with this specific situation?" you ask, "What patterns, processes, or structures are creating this type of situation repeatedly?" Instead of treating symptoms, you identify and address root causes. For example, if you're consistently missing deadlines, a surface-level solution might be working longer hours. A systems thinking approach examines your entire workflow: how you estimate time requirements, how you prioritize tasks, how you handle interruptions, how you manage energy levels throughout the day. The solution might involve changing your estimation process, redesigning your workspace, or establishing new boundaries with colleagues, none of which involve simply working more hours. Systems thinking often reveals that what appears to be a resource problem is actually a design problem. You don't need more time. You need better systems for managing time. You don't need more money. You need better systems for generating and managing money. You don't need more willpower. You need better systems that require less willpower. Strategy 2. Constraint theory. This comes from the principle that every system is limited by its weakest link. Instead of trying to improve everything simultaneously, you identify the single constraint that's limiting your entire system and focus all your resources on eliminating that constraint. This requires brutally honest analysis of where your bottlenecks actually exist. Most people assume their constraints are external: lack of money, time, or opportunities. But often, the real constraints are internal: limiting beliefs, inadequate skills, poor systems, or ineffective habits. Once you identify your primary constraint, you apply what researchers call constraint elevation. You either improve the constraint's capacity or you restructure your system so that constraint is no longer the limiting factor. Sometimes this means developing new capabilities. Sometimes it means delegating or outsourcing. Sometimes it means changing your approach entirely. The power of constraint theory is that it prevents you from wasting energy on improvements that don't actually matter. If your constraint is lead generation, improving your sales presentation won't significantly impact results. If your constraint is time management, learning advanced marketing techniques won't help. By focusing exclusively on your true constraints, you maximize the impact of your efforts. Strategy 3. Solution stacking. Instead of looking for single solutions to complex problems, you combine multiple smaller solutions that work synergistically. This approach recognizes that complex challenges often require multifaceted responses. Solution stacking starts with breaking complex problems into smaller, more manageable components. Instead of trying to solve, "I want to build a successful business," you break it down into specific challenges: market research, product development, customer acquisition, operations management, financial planning. Each component can then be addressed with targeted solutions. The key is looking for solutions that address multiple components simultaneously. The best solutions often create positive spillover effects that improve several areas at once. For example, creating high-quality content for your business might simultaneously address customer education, brand building, lead generation, and search engine optimization. One action, multiple benefits. Solution stacking also involves sequencing your solutions strategically. Some solutions create prerequisites for other solutions. Some solutions compound when implemented together. By thinking strategically about the order and combination of your solutions, you create momentum that accelerates progress. Strategy 4. Solution modeling. Instead of starting from scratch, you study how others have solved similar problems and adapt their approaches to your specific situation. This dramatically reduces the time and energy required to generate effective solutions. Solution modeling involves identifying people or organizations that have successfully addressed challenges similar to yours. You study their strategies, processes, and decision-making frameworks. You identify the principles behind their success and adapt those principles to your context. The key is focusing on principles rather than tactics. Tactics are specific actions that work in specific situations. Principles are underlying truths that can be applied across different contexts. For example, the specific marketing tactics that work for a software company might not work for a restaurant. But the principles of understanding your customer, creating genuine value, and building trust apply universally. Solution modeling also involves studying failures, not just successes. By understanding what doesn't work and why, you avoid costly mistakes and identify potential pitfalls before you encounter them. Strategy 5. Solution evolution. This recognizes that the best solutions often emerge through iteration rather than perfect initial design. Instead of trying to find the perfect solution immediately, you implement good enough solutions and improve them based on real-world feedback. Solution evolution starts with rapid prototyping, creating quick, low-cost versions of potential solutions that allow you to test your assumptions and gather data. Instead of spending months planning the perfect approach, you spend days or weeks testing imperfect approaches and learning from the results. This approach is particularly powerful for complex challenges where you can't predict all the variables in advance. Instead of trying to plan for every contingency, you create adaptive solutions that can be modified based on what you learn through implementation. Solution evolution also involves building feedback loops into your solutions. You establish metrics and checkpoints that tell you whether your solutions are working and how they can be improved. This allows you to course correct quickly rather than persisting with ineffective approaches. These advanced strategies transform your approach to complex challenges. Instead of being overwhelmed by complexity, you have specific tools for breaking down and systematically addressing even the most difficult problems. Instead of hoping for breakthrough insights, you have reliable methods for generating innovative solutions. Chapter 6: Rewiring Your Brain for Automatic Solution. Finding the difference between people who occasionally think about solutions and people who automatically find solutions in every situation comes down to neural programming. Your brain operates on habits. And right now, your mental habits are probably programmed for problem identification rather than solution generation. But with the right techniques, you can literally rewire your brain to make solution-focused thinking your default mode of operation. This reprogramming process works because of neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to form new neural pathways throughout your life. Every thought you think strengthens certain neural connections while weakening others. Every time you catch yourself focusing on a problem and consciously redirect to solutions, you're building new mental pathways. Do this consistently enough, and solution-focused thinking becomes as automatic as breathing. Let me share the most effective reprogramming techniques I've discovered. Technique 1: the solution interrupt. This is a pattern interrupt that stops problem-focused thinking before it gains momentum. The moment you notice yourself analyzing what's wrong with the situation, you immediately ask yourself, "What's one thing I could do right now to improve this situation?" This question forces your brain to shift from analysis mode to action mode. The key is making this interrupt automatic. Set reminders on your phone to ask yourself this question every hour for the first week. Write it on sticky notes and place them where you'll see them regularly. The goal is interrupting problem-focused thinking so consistently that your brain starts making the shift automatically. I remember when I first started this practice, I set an alarm on my phone that went off every 2 hours with the message, "Solution Mode." It felt awkward at first, but within 2 weeks, I noticed I was catching myself in problem-focused thinking without needing the reminder. Technique 2: solution priming. This involves deliberately exposing your brain to solution-focused information throughout the day. Instead of starting your morning by checking news or social media, which primes your brain for problem-focused thinking, start with content that showcases human ingenuity, problem-solving, and achievement. Read biographies of people who overcame significant challenges. Listen to podcasts about innovation and entrepreneurship. Watch documentaries about breakthrough discoveries. Study case studies of companies that turned around from failure to success. This isn't about blind positivity. It's about training your brain to see examples of successful problem solving so it knows what's possible. Solution priming also involves changing your language patterns. Problem-focused people use language that emphasizes limitations. I can't. It's impossible. There's no way. This always happens. Solution-focused people use language that emphasizes possibilities. How might I? What if? There must be a way. This is interesting. Your language doesn't just reflect your thinking. It shapes your thinking. When you consistently use solution-focused language, you literally program your brain to look for solutions. Technique 3. Solution visualization. This leverages your brain's inability to distinguish between vivid imagination and actual experience. When you visualize yourself successfully solving problems, your brain strengthens the same neural pathways that would be activated if you were actually solving those problems. Spend 5 minutes each day visualizing yourself encountering a challenge and smoothly transitioning into solution mode. See yourself staying calm and confident. Hear yourself asking the right questions. Feel the satisfaction of implementing an effective solution. Make the visualization as detailed and emotionally engaging as possible. The more you practice this mental rehearsal, the more natural solution-focused thinking becomes in real situations. Your brain has already practiced the pattern, so it knows exactly what to do when you encounter actual challenges. Technique 4. Environmental design. Your physical environment constantly influences your mental state, usually without your conscious awareness. Solution-focused people design their environments to trigger solution-focused thinking automatically. This might mean surrounding yourself with reminders of past successes, keeping solution-focused books visible, or displaying quotes that reinforce resourcefulness and creativity. Remove environmental triggers that promote problem-focused thinking, negative news, complainers, or reminders of past failures. Your digital environment is equally important. Curate your social media feeds to include people who share solutions, innovations, and positive examples of problem solving. Unfollow accounts that consistently focus on problems without offering solutions. Technique 5. Accountability. Partnership. Your brain changes faster when your new thinking patterns are reinforced by social interaction. Find someone who shares your commitment to solution-focused thinking and check in with each other regularly. Share the challenges you're facing and the solutions you're implementing. Celebrate each other's progress in making this mental shift. Challenge each other when you slip back into problem-focused thinking. Having external accountability accelerates the reprogramming process and makes it far more likely to stick. These techniques work because they address reprogramming at multiple levels: conscious attention, subconscious exposure, mental rehearsal, environmental influence, and social reinforcement. Used consistently, they create a compound effect that transforms solution-focused thinking from an occasional practice into an automatic response. Chapter 7. Turning every problem into an opportunity. One of the most transformative skills you can develop is the ability to reframe problems as opportunities. And I want to be clear with you. This isn't about slapping a positive spin on everything or pretending difficulties don't exist. This is about training your brain to automatically look for the hidden advantages, learning opportunities, and growth potential that exist within every challenge. Reframing works because every situation contains multiple interpretations, and the interpretation you choose determines your emotional response, your available options, and your likelihood of success. Problem-focused people automatically interpret challenges as threats, which triggers stress, narrows their thinking, and leads to defensive behavior. Solution-focused people automatically interpret challenges as opportunities, which triggers curiosity, broadens their thinking, and leads to creative action. Let me share the most powerful reframing techniques that can shift your entire perspective. Technique 1. The opportunity scan. When you encounter any challenge, immediately ask yourself 3 specific questions. What could this situation teach me? How could this experience make me stronger? What possibilities does this open up that wouldn't exist otherwise? These questions force your brain to search for positive aspects of the situation. Remember, your brain is a search engine. It finds whatever you're looking for. If you're looking for problems, you'll find them. If you're looking for opportunities, you'll find those instead. For example, imagine you lose your job. The problem frame focuses on lost income, damaged reputation, financial stress. The opportunity frame focuses on the chance to pursue a better position, learn new skills, start that business you've been considering, or pivot to an entirely different career path. Both interpretations acknowledge the same facts, but they lead to completely different emotional states and action plans. I remember talking to a friend who got laid off from a corporate job she'd held for 8 years. Initially, she was devastated, but when we went through the opportunity scan together, she realized this was actually the push she needed to launch her consulting practice, something she'd been too scared to do while she had the security of a steady paycheck. 2 years later, she's earning twice what she made before and has complete control over her schedule. Technique 2. Competitive advantage identification. Every challenge you face is also being faced by your competitors, colleagues, or peers. The question is, how can you respond to this challenge in a way that gives you an advantage over others facing the same situation? Most people respond to challenges by trying to get back to where they were before the challenge occurred. Solution-focused people respond to challenges by using them as springboards to reach higher levels than they've ever achieved. They understand that challenges are universal, but responses create differentiation. When the economy struggles, most businesses focus on survival. Smart businesses focus on using the downturn to improve their operations, acquire talent at better rates, and position themselves for explosive growth when conditions improve. When an industry faces disruption, most companies resist the change. Smart companies figure out how to lead the change and capture the opportunities it creates. Technique 3. Resource expansion. Problem-focused people see challenges as depleting their resources. Solution-focused people see challenges as opportunities to develop new resources. Every problem you solve makes you stronger, smarter, and more capable of solving future problems. Think about the most difficult challenges you've overcome in your life. How did conquering those challenges change you? What capabilities did you develop? What confidence did you gain? What relationships did you build? What knowledge did you acquire? The resources you gained from overcoming those challenges probably far exceeded the resources you expended solving them. This perspective transforms your relationship with difficulty. Instead of seeing challenges as costs, you see them as investments. Instead of avoiding difficult situations, you actively seek out challenges that will help you grow. This shift alone dramatically accelerates your personal and professional development. Technique 4. Timing. Optimization. Problem-focused people see challenges as interruptions that occur at the worst possible times. Solution-focused people understand that the best time to develop new capabilities, strengthen relationships, and gain competitive advantages is often during challenging periods. Economic downturns create opportunities to acquire assets at discount prices. Industry disruptions create opportunities to establish new market positions. Personal setbacks create opportunities to reassess priorities and make necessary changes you've been postponing. The key is recognizing that timing is often perfect even when it doesn't feel that way in the moment. Technique 5. Story restructuring. Your brain makes sense of events by creating narratives, and the story you tell yourself about what's happening determines how you feel and what actions you take. Problem-focused people create victim stories where things happen to them. Solution-focused people create hero stories where they actively shape their outcomes. In victim stories, you're at the mercy of circumstances beyond your control. In hero stories, you're the protagonist who faces challenges, develops new capabilities, and ultimately triumphs. Both stories can describe the same events, but they lead to completely different levels of empowerment and possibility. The most successful people are master storytellers who consistently frame their experiences in empowering ways. They don't ignore difficulties or pretend everything is easy. They acknowledge challenges while maintaining narratives that position them as capable of overcoming whatever they face. These reframing techniques work because they literally change your brain chemistry. When you interpret situations as opportunities rather than threats, your brain releases different neurotransmitters that enhance creativity, improve memory, and increase motivation. You gain access to mental resources that simply aren't available when you're in problem-focused mode. Chapter 8. Communication that transforms relationships and results. Most people don't realize that the way they communicate about challenges either amplifies problems or accelerates solutions. Problem-focused communication creates drama, spreads negativity, and keeps everyone stuck in analysis paralysis. Solution-focused communication builds energy, generates ideas, and moves people toward action. Master this distinction, and you'll transform every relationship and dramatically improve your results. The foundation of solution-focused communication is understanding that every conversation is either moving toward problems or moving toward solutions. There's no neutral ground. When you engage in problem-focused communication, you're training everyone involved to become better at seeing what's wrong. When you engage in solution-focused communication, you're training everyone to become better at seeing what's possible. Let me share the core principles that will revolutionize how you communicate. Principle 1. Acknowledgement without amplification. You can acknowledge that problems exist without making them the focus of the conversation. Problem-focused communicators spend most of their time describing problems in detail, which amplifies the emotional impact and makes the problem seem larger and more overwhelming than they actually are. Solution-focused communicators acknowledge problems briefly and factually, then immediately shift the conversation to solution exploration. Instead of saying, "This is a disaster and I don't know how we're going to handle it," you say, "We have a challenge that needs our attention. Let's figure out how to address it." The difference in language might seem subtle, but the impact on everyone's mental state is profound. Problem-focused language triggers stress responses that impair thinking. Solution-focused language triggers curiosity and creativity that enhance thinking. Principle 2. Question design. The questions you ask determine where the conversation goes and what kind of thinking you stimulate in others. Problem-focused questions keep everyone focused on what's wrong. Why did this happen? Who's responsible for this mess? How bad could this get? Solution-focused questions redirect attention to what's possible. What are our options? What resources do we have? What's worked in similar situations? Master solution-focused questioning, and you can redirect any conversation from problem analysis to solution generation. Instead of asking, "Why are our sales declining?" ask, "What are 3 things we could do to increase sales?" Instead of asking, "Why is this project behind schedule?" ask, "What would need to happen to get back on track?" Principle 3. Energy management. Problem-focused communication drains energy from everyone involved. People leave problem-focused conversations feeling overwhelmed, discouraged, and less capable than when they started. Solution-focused communication generates energy. People leave solution-focused conversations feeling empowered, motivated, and confident in their ability to handle challenges. This energy difference has practical implications for results. Teams with higher energy levels are more creative, more collaborative, and more persistent. They generate better ideas and implement them more effectively. By consistently using solution-focused communication, you literally increase the capacity of everyone around you. Principle 4. Assumption. Seeding. The assumptions underlying your communication shape how others think about what's possible. Problem-focused communicators embed assumptions of limitation. This is going to be really difficult. I'm not sure we can pull this off. There's probably no good solution. These assumptions become self-fulfilling prophecies that limit what people are willing to attempt. Solution-focused communicators embed assumptions of capability. We'll figure this out. There's definitely a way to handle this. We've solved tougher challenges before. These assumptions create psychological safety that allows people to think more creatively and take more intelligent risks. Principle 5. Momentum. Building problem-focused communication creates psychological momentum toward negativity and helplessness. Each problem that gets discussed in detail makes the next problem seem more serious. Solution-focused communication creates psychological momentum toward resourcefulness and action. Each solution that gets generated makes the next solution easier to find. You can use this momentum effect strategically by starting meetings with quick wins and successful examples before addressing more challenging issues. When people's brains are primed with examples of successful problem solving, they approach new challenges with greater confidence and creativity. These communication principles work in every context, with colleagues, family members, friends, and even in your internal dialogue. The more consistently you apply solution-focused communication, the more you'll notice that the people around you start adopting similar patterns. You become a positive influence that raises the thinking level of everyone in your environment. Solution-focused communication also changes how people see you. Instead of being known as someone who brings problems, you become known as someone who brings solutions. Instead of being the person others avoid when they're struggling, you become the person they seek out when they need help thinking through challenges. This shift in reputation creates opportunities that wouldn't exist otherwise. People want to work with solution-focused individuals because they make everything easier and more pleasant. They want to promote solution-focused employees because they improve team performance. They want to partner with solution-focused businesses because they deliver better results with less drama. Chapter 9. Building Unshakable Confidence Through Solution Mastery. True confidence doesn't come from avoiding challenges or pretending problems don't exist. It comes from knowing that whatever challenge you face, you have the capability to find a solution. This is what separates people with genuine confidence from people with false bravado. Genuine confidence is built on proven competence in solution finding, not on hope or positive thinking alone. The relationship between solution-focused thinking and confidence creates a powerful upward spiral. The more skilled you become at finding solutions, the more confident you feel facing new challenges. The more confident you feel, the more willing you are to tackle difficult problems. The more difficult problems you solve, the more skilled you become at finding solutions. This cycle continues indefinitely, constantly expanding your capabilities and confidence. Most people experience the opposite cycle. When they encounter challenges they can't solve immediately, they lose confidence in their abilities. Lower confidence makes them less likely to attempt difficult challenges, which means they don't develop better problem-solving skills. Weaker problem-solving skills lead to more situations where they feel overwhelmed, which further reduces their confidence. This downward spiral keeps them trapped in mediocrity. Let me share the strategies for building solution-based confidence that will serve you for life. Strategy 1. Deliberate challenge, progression. Instead of avoiding difficult situations, you systematically seek out challenges that are slightly beyond your current comfort zone. This allows you to build confidence gradually while developing increasingly sophisticated solution-finding abilities. Start with challenges that feel manageable but require you to stretch slightly. As you successfully solve these challenges, gradually increase the difficulty level. Each success builds evidence that you're capable of finding solutions, which gives you confidence to attempt even more challenging problems. The key is maintaining a success rate of approximately 70 to 80%. If you're succeeding more than 80% of the time, you're not challenging yourself enough to grow rapidly. If you're succeeding less than 70% of the time, you're attempting challenges that are too difficult and risk damaging your confidence. Strategy 2. Solution documentation. Most people solve problems and immediately forget about them, moving on to the next challenge without reflecting on what they learned. This wastes the confidence-building potential of their achievements. Solution-focused people systematically document their problem-solving successes and the lessons they learned from each experience. Keep a solution journal where you record every significant challenge you overcome. Include what the problem was, what solutions you tried, what worked, what didn't work, and what you learned from the experience. Review this journal regularly to remind yourself of your problem-solving capabilities and to identify patterns in your successful approaches. This documentation serves multiple purposes. It provides concrete evidence of your competence. When you're facing a particularly difficult challenge, it helps you recognize patterns in your solution-finding process that you can apply to new situations. It builds your identity as someone who consistently finds ways to overcome obstacles. Strategy 3. Skill diversification. Confidence grows when you have multiple approaches to problem solving. If you only know one way to address challenges, you'll feel helpless when that approach doesn't work. If you have multiple methodologies in your toolkit, you'll always feel like you have options. Systematically study different problem-solving frameworks, decision-making models, and creative thinking techniques. Practice applying these different approaches to various types of challenges. The goal isn't becoming an expert in every methodology, but having enough familiarity with different approaches that you can adapt your strategy based on the specific challenge you're facing. Strategy 4. Failure recontextualization. Confident people don't avoid failure. They interpret failure differently. Instead of seeing failed solutions as evidence of incompetence, they see them as valuable data that brings them closer to effective solutions. This recontextualization transforms failure from a confidence destroyer into a confidence builder. Every failed solution eliminates one approach and provides information about what doesn't work in this particular situation. The more failed solutions you accumulate, the closer you get to finding the solution that will work. This perspective allows you to maintain confidence and motivation even when your initial attempts don't succeed. The most confident people in any field are usually the ones who have failed the most because they've learned that failure is temporary while the lessons from failure are permanent. They've developed the mental resilience to persist through multiple failed attempts without questioning their fundamental capabilities. Strategy 5. Teaching and mentoring. Nothing builds confidence in your solution-finding abilities like successfully helping others solve their problems. When you teach someone else to think solution-focused or mentor them through a challenging situation, you reinforce your own competence while developing deeper insights into the problem-solving process. Look for opportunities to share your solution-focused approaches with colleagues, friends, or family members. Offer to help others think through challenges they're facing. The more you help others find solutions, the more confidence you'll have in your own ability to handle whatever life presents. This strategy also expands your problem-solving experience without having to personally face every type of challenge. By helping others with their problems, you gain exposure to a wider variety of situations and solutions than you would encounter in your own life alone. Chapter 10. Advanced Mental Models for Impossible Problems. There's a special category of challenges that seem impossible using conventional thinking. These are the problems that stop most people in their tracks because they appear to have no viable solutions. But what separates extraordinary achievers from everyone else is their ability to solve problems that others consider unsolvable. They do this by using advanced mental models that reveal solutions invisible to conventional thinking. Let me share these game-changing mental models with you. Mental Model 1. Constraint elimination. Most people assume that the constraints they perceive in a situation are fixed and immutable. They accept limitations as permanent features of reality, rather than temporary obstacles that can be overcome or circumvented. Advanced problem solvers question every assumption about what's possible. Start by listing every constraint that makes a problem seem impossible. Then systematically challenge each constraint. Is this constraint actually fixed, or does it just seem fixed because you haven't found a way around it yet? What would have to be true for this constraint to be irrelevant? Who has successfully operated without this constraint, and how did they do it? Often, what appears to be an impossible problem is really a problem with unnecessary constraints. Remove or modify the constraints, and the problem becomes solvable. This requires mental flexibility and willingness to question conventional wisdom. But it opens up solution possibilities that others never consider. I once worked with an entrepreneur who felt stuck because she didn't have enough capital to launch her business. When we eliminated that constraint mentally and asked, how could this be done with zero capital? She discovered a pre-sale model where customers paid up front, funding the entire operation. The constraint wasn't real. It was just assumed. Mental Model 2. Reverse engineering. Instead of trying to solve a problem from your current position forward, you start from your desired outcome and work backward to identify what would need to be true for that outcome to exist. This reveals pathways that aren't visible when you approach the problem conventionally. Define your ideal outcome in specific detail. Then ask, what would need to happen immediately before this outcome for it to be possible? What would need to happen before that? Continue working backward until you reach something you can actually implement from your current position. This approach often reveals that impossible problems are actually sequences of very possible smaller problems. The challenge isn't that any individual step is impossible. It's that people can't see the complete pathway from where they are to where they want to be. Mental Model 3. Resource multiplication. Most people approach difficult problems by trying to acquire more resources, more money, more time, more people, more equipment. Advanced problem solvers focus on multiplying the effectiveness of resources they already have. This involves finding ways to make each resource do multiple jobs simultaneously, creating systems that generate resources rather than consume them, and leveraging other people's resources through partnerships and collaborations. Instead of asking, what resources do I need? You ask, how can I accomplish this with the resources I have? Resource multiplication often involves changing the rules of the game rather than playing the existing game better. Instead of competing for scarce resources, you create new categories where resources are abundant. Instead of accepting traditional trade-offs, you find ways to achieve multiple benefits simultaneously. Mental Model 4. Perspective shifting. Impossible problems often become solvable when viewed from different perspectives. What appears impossible from one viewpoint might be straightforward from another. Advanced problem solvers systematically examine challenges from multiple angles until they find a perspective that reveals viable solutions. Ask, how would different types of people approach this problem? How would an engineer solve it versus an artist, versus an entrepreneur, versus a child? How would someone from a different culture approach it? How would someone with unlimited resources solve it versus someone with no resources at all? Each perspective shift potentially reveals solutions that weren't visible from your original viewpoint. The goal isn't finding the right perspective, but collecting multiple perspectives until you have enough solution possibilities to find one that works. Mental Model 5. Paradox integration. Some problems appear impossible because they seem to require contradictory solutions. Advanced problem solvers learn to hold paradoxes in tension rather than trying to resolve them immediately. They look for ways to satisfy apparently opposing requirements simultaneously. Instead of choosing between speed and quality, they find ways to be fast and high quality. Instead of choosing between cost and features, they find ways to be inexpensive and feature-rich. Instead of choosing between growth and stability, they find ways to grow rapidly while maintaining stability. Paradox integration often requires creative redefinition of the problem itself. When you can't solve a problem as currently defined, sometimes the solution is redefining the problem in a way that eliminates the contradictions. These advanced mental models work because they bypass the mental limitations that make problems appear impossible. They help you see beyond conventional constraints, discover hidden pathways, multiply your resources, shift your perspective, and integrate contradictions. Used consistently, they transform your relationship with difficulty from avoidance to excitement, because you know that every impossible problem is just a solution waiting to be discovered. Chapter 11. The daily system that makes solution thinking automatic. Knowing how to think about solutions isn't enough. The difference between people who occasionally apply solution-focused thinking and people who consistently achieve extraordinary results comes down to having a daily operating system that makes solution-focused behavior automatic. This isn't about motivation or willpower. It's about designing your days so that every routine, every habit, and every decision point reinforces solution-focused thinking. Most people wake up each morning in reactive mode. They check their phones immediately, exposing their brains to a flood of problems, crises, and negative information before they've even gotten out of bed. They start their days by consuming other people's problems instead of focusing on their own solutions. This sets a problem-focused tone that influences their thinking for the entire day. Solution-focused people understand that the first hour of your day programs your brain for everything that follows. They protect this time fiercely and use it to prime their minds for solution-oriented thinking. Let me walk you through the daily system that will transform your life. Component 1, the morning solution session. This is a 15-minute ritual that prepares your brain to operate in solution mode throughout the day. You start by reviewing your current challenges and identifying the specific solutions you'll implement today. Not just thinking about solutions, but committing to specific actions. This session serves multiple purposes. It shifts your brain into proactive mode instead of reactive mode. It gives you clear focus for the day so you're not wandering aimlessly from task to task. It builds momentum by connecting today's actions to your larger goals, and it reinforces your identity as someone who actively solves problems rather than someone who passively experiences them. During this session, you also practice solution visualization. You mentally rehearse yourself successfully implementing your planned solutions. You see yourself overcoming obstacles, staying focused, and achieving the results you want. This mental rehearsal strengthens the neural pathways associated with successful problem solving and increases the likelihood that you'll actually follow through on your plans. Component 2, strategic decision-making. Throughout the day, every decision you make either moves you toward solutions or away from them. Solution-focused people develop the habit of asking themselves a simple question before every significant decision. Will this move me closer to solutions or deeper into problems? This question serves as a filter that helps you avoid activities, conversations, and commitments that drain your energy without creating progress. It helps you recognize when you're being pulled into problem-focused thinking and gives you a tool for redirecting your attention. Over time, this decision-making filter becomes automatic, protecting your mental resources for activities that actually create results. Component 3, the evening solution review. Just as the morning session prepares your brain for the day ahead, the evening review processes what you learned and reinforces successful patterns. You spend 10 minutes reflecting on the solutions you implemented, what worked, what didn't work, and what you learned that will help you solve similar problems more effectively in the future. This reflection serves as a bridge between today's learning and tomorrow's application. Without deliberate reflection, most people solve problems and immediately forget about the process they used. They fail to extract the transferable principles that could help them solve future problems more efficiently. The evening review ensures that every problem you solve makes you better at solving all future problems. Component 4, environmental optimization. Your physical and digital environments constantly influence your thinking patterns, usually without your conscious awareness. Solution-focused people deliberately design their environments to trigger solution-oriented thinking automatically. This means surrounding yourself with visual reminders of your capabilities, past successes, and current goals. It means organizing your workspace to minimize distractions and maximize focus. It means curating your information diet to include more solution-oriented content and less problem-focused noise. Every element of your environment should either support solution-focused thinking or be eliminated. Component 5, energy management. Solution-focused thinking requires mental energy. and most people squander their best mental resources on low-value activities. By the time they encounter significant challenges, they're operating with depleted cognitive resources, which makes solution finding much more difficult. Solution-focused people treat mental energy like a precious resource that must be allocated strategically. They tackle their most important problem-solving work when their energy levels are highest. They protect their peak performance hours from interruptions, distractions, and low-value tasks. They understand that when your energy is low, your brain defaults to problem-focused thinking because it requires less effort than solution generation. Component 6. Social reinforcement. Your thinking patterns are heavily influenced by the people you spend time with. If you're surrounded by people who constantly focus on problems, complain about circumstances, and avoid taking responsibility for solutions, their thinking patterns will gradually influence yours regardless of your conscious intentions. Solution-focused people deliberately cultivate relationships with other solution-oriented individuals. They seek out mentors, colleagues, and friends who approach challenges with resourcefulness and optimism. They limit their exposure to chronic complainers and problem-focused thinkers. They understand that your social environment is just as important as your physical environment in shaping your default thinking patterns. This social reinforcement also involves becoming a positive influence on others. When you consistently demonstrate solution-focused thinking in your interactions, you not only reinforce your own patterns, but also encourage others to adopt similar approaches. This creates a positive feedback loop that strengthens everyone's solution-finding capabilities. These components work together to create a comprehensive system that makes solution-focused thinking your default mode of operation. Instead of relying on motivation or willpower to maintain this mindset, you create structures and routines that automatically guide your thinking in productive directions. Over time, this system becomes so ingrained that solution-focused thinking feels natural and effortless. Chapter 12. Your solution-focused future starts now. You now possess something that most people never develop: a complete understanding of how to transform any challenge into an opportunity for growth, innovation, and breakthrough results. You understand why your brain defaults to problems, how to override that programming, and what specific techniques to use for finding solutions in any situation. More importantly, you understand how to make this way of thinking automatic, sustainable, and influential in every area of your life. But here's the truth, my friend. Knowledge without application remains just interesting information. The difference between people who occasionally think about solutions and people who consistently create extraordinary results comes down to one thing: implementation. Everything you've learned means nothing unless you commit to making solution-focused thinking your default mode of operation. Starting today. Starting with the very next challenge you encounter. This isn't about perfection. You will still have moments when you slip back into problem-focused thinking. You will still encounter challenges that initially feel overwhelming. You will still face situations where the solutions aren't immediately obvious. The difference is that now you have a systematic approach for redirecting your thinking, a comprehensive toolkit for finding solutions, and the confidence that comes from understanding how solution finding actually works. The most successful people in any field share one characteristic. They understand that extraordinary results come from consistently applying simple principles over long periods of time. They don't succeed because they have access to secret information or special advantages. They succeed because they do what everyone else knows they should do, but most people don't actually do consistently. Solution-focused thinking is one of those simple principles that creates extraordinary results when applied consistently. Every day that you choose solutions over problems, every conversation where you redirect from analysis to action, every challenge where you ask, "How can I solve this?" instead of, "Why is this happening?" You're building a track record of results that compounds over time. The compound effect of solution-focused thinking is more powerful than most people realize. Each problem you solve makes you better at solving the next problem. Each solution you implement teaches you something that helps you find future solutions more quickly. Each challenge you overcome builds confidence that allows you to attempt more difficult challenges. Each success creates momentum that makes the next success more likely. Over time, this compound effect creates a massive advantage over people who remain trapped in problem-focused thinking. While they're spending their energy analyzing what's wrong, you're spending your energy implementing what works. While they're getting stuck in cycles of worry and analysis paralysis, you're moving forward with clear action and consistent progress. While they're becoming experts on their problems, you're becoming an expert on solutions. But the real transformation goes beyond just getting better results. When solution-focused thinking becomes your automatic response to challenges, it changes who you are at a fundamental level. You stop seeing yourself as someone who has problems and start seeing yourself as someone who finds solutions. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstances and start feeling like the architect of your outcomes. This identity shift affects every aspect of your life. In your career, you become known as the person who makes things happen, who can be counted on to find ways forward when others are stuck. In your relationships, you become someone who brings out the best in others, who helps people feel more capable and confident. In your personal development, you become someone who consistently grows and improves rather than staying stuck in the same patterns year after year. People will start coming to you for advice, guidance, and collaboration because they know you approach challenges differently. They know that when they work with you, problems become opportunities, obstacles become learning experiences, and setbacks become setups for comebacks. You become a magnet for other solution-focused people and opportunities that require solution-oriented thinking. The ripple effects extend far beyond your immediate circle. Every person you help develop solution-focused thinking becomes better at helping others do the same. Every organization you influence toward solution-focused culture becomes more innovative, resilient, and successful. Every challenge you help solve creates a model for how similar challenges can be addressed in the future. This is how individual transformation becomes collective transformation. By committing to solution-focused thinking in your own life, you're contributing to a fundamental shift in how humanity approaches its greatest challenges. Instead of being overwhelmed, to people who can find solutions, where to people who can find solutions where others see only problems, who can create opportunities where others see only obstacles, who can maintain confidence and creativity when others are paralyzed by complexity and uncertainty. The future belongs to solution-focused thinkers. And now, you're one of them. Your journey is just beginning. Solution-focused mastery isn't a destination you reach and then coast from. It's a way of living that requires continuous practice, refinement, and growth. Every day presents new opportunities to strengthen your solution-finding capabilities. Every challenge is a chance to test and improve your skills. Every interaction is an opportunity to model solution-focused thinking for others. The path forward is clear. Start immediately. Take the next challenge you're facing and apply the frameworks you've built. Your reputation as someone who finds solutions. Ask solution-focused questions. Generate multiple options. Implement the best solutions systematically. Document what you learn. Share your insights with others. Build your reputation as someone who finds ways forward when others are stuck. Remember that every expert was once a beginner. Every master was once learning. And every breakthrough started with someone who refused to accept that a problem was unsolvable. You now have everything you need to join the ranks of people who consistently create extraordinary results through solution-focused thinking. The only question that remains is this: will you commit to applying what you've learned? Or will you let this knowledge remain just another interesting idea you heard about once? The choice is yours. But understand that this choice will determine whether you spend the rest of your life as someone who has problems or someone who finds solutions. Your solution-focused future starts now. The next challenge you face is your first opportunity to demonstrate that you've truly transformed how you think about problems. The next conversation you have is your chance to model solution-focused communication. The next decision you make is your opportunity to choose progress over problems. Everything you want in life is waiting on the other side of challenges that need to be solved. Every goal you want to achieve requires overcoming obstacles that initially appear insurmountable. Every breakthrough you desire depends on your ability to find solutions that others haven't discovered yet. Now, you have the tools, the understanding, and the confidence to find those solutions. The world needs more solution-focused thinkers. It needs more people who approach challenges with creativity instead of fear, with resourcefulness instead of helplessness, with confidence instead of despair. It needs people who can find ways forward when the path isn't obvious, who can create possibilities when options seem limited, who can maintain hope when others are giving up. You can be one of those people. In fact, after everything you've learned, you already are one of those people. The only question is whether you'll claim that identity and live up to your potential, or whether you'll allow old patterns to pull you back into problem-focused thinking. Choose quickly, because while you're deciding, challenges are waiting to be solved. Opportunities are waiting to be discovered, and a solution-focused future is waiting to be created. Your transformation is complete. Your journey is just beginning. Make it count.